Hey there, it's Gloria of Getting Real with Gloria, where my journey supports yours. And I want to talk about a question that often comes up in pet loss. This is something I see with friends and through a lot of my social groups, where people are wondering, after I lose a pet, when is the right time for me to get another pet or welcome another pet into my home? The short answer is it is very subjective and it's going to be unique to your experience. But I do want to kind of explain why. I'm going to talk about dogs in this video, but feel free to substitute whether you've lost a rabbit or a cat or a reptile or whatever animal you felt you had a soul connection with. Deciding to welcome another animal or dog into your home can be challenging because for many of us, after loss, we're not sure that we can really open our hearts up again, especially if we had a very deep bond and connection to the dog who passed. So for many of us, when it's time to decide, hey, do I want to get another dog? Or hey, I see this dog on an adoption website and I feel connected to them, but I don't know if it's time. A lot of that conflict comes from being afraid of what will happen when you open your heart back up. So I want to really look at why this is, and basically it's a simple matter of risk. So I'm going to distill this down to a very simple example, but please know that the simplicity of it does not mean to simplify loss in any way. So anytime we want to travel, anytime we want to experience something new, maybe explore a new country, taste different food, explore a new culture, we have to usually take, a car, a train, a bus, a plane to get there, right? And for many of us, the risk of what happens when we travel on a plane, let's say, doesn't necessarily carry as much weight as enjoying the experience of having something new, of really enjoying the richness of life. And so for many of us, we'll say, we realize there's risk, but we're still going to go anyway. The same concept works in creating new relationships in our lives or welcoming different people or animals into our lives. There's always going to be risk because the truth is nothing lasts forever. And so there's always the risk of loss. Now, we can choose not to welcome a new relationship, a new dog into our lives because we're afraid of what happened before, the pain of the loss, the feeling stuck after a loss, the, missing that happens on a daily basis. So we can have that risk be greater than what we might get out of the love, or we can choose to let the risk be secondary and choose to open our hearts to love again because what we're getting out of that relationship, out of that bond is going to be far greater. Now, I'm not saying that there is a good or a bad here. The truth is everybody has to make their own decisions about whether or not opening up their heart after loss is worth the risk. And that's really a unique experience and personal decision for you. However, I will say, don't let anybody tell you that you have to wait a certain amount of months before you bring a new dog into your life. Or, you can do it the day after, so long as you follow these rules. There's no rules in loss. I hate to break it to everybody. There's no easy navigation system for it. So when it comes to deciding, do I want to bring another dog into my home? You simply have to ask yourself, am I ready to open my heart up again? Now, the answer might be yes, but. And if the answer is yes, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to love this dog as much as the first dog I had or the last dog I had, or I'm afraid that I am replacing the last dog I had by getting a new dog. If those are your fears or something like that, then I would say allow yourself to move forward in a place of excitement if that feels right, and the fears will subside. Now, if the fears are something like monetary concerns or, your mental health is really in a poor state and you really need to tend to that and not tend to another animal that you would be responsible for, totally get that. Those are valid concerns and maybe take a pause. But if you are just feeling like it's a yes, but, I would encourage you to look deep and see, does this feel right? A lot of people will say that when they see a picture of a dog that they found on an adoption website, or when they get a call from a friend and it turns out somebody's rehoming a pet, they feel that gut instinct that says, I want to connect with this dog. Something feels right about this dog. And if that's the case, then honestly, by adopting that dog, you are probably doing yourself and the dog a favor because you're going to be creating a relationship based on the love that you had for the dog before. Some people see it as replacement, but I don't see it that way. I see it that you're building a foundation, or I should say you're building on the foundation of the dog that you lost. So for me, I lost my chocolate Labrador teddy bear, and we had 14 and a half gorgeous, beautiful, fun-filled memories during those 14 and a half years. When he passed away, I actually had another dog in the home. Many of you know my Australian cattle dog rescue, Coors. And it was a really challenging time after that loss to really dedicate time to Coors. But what I did find that was really interesting that I wasn't expecting in grief was that we actually became closer, because Coors basically became my buddy through the process of grieving. And that was something that we shared that was really special. The other thing that happened was, by honoring Teddy Bear through the love that I had for Coors, I was actually able to keep Teddy Bear more alive. Now, I will tell you, there's a couple things that you want to be aware of when you're ready to get another dog. One is there are going to be pain points in that growth journey together with this new dog. And the reason I say that is because it's natural that your brain is going to compare the dog that you lost to the dog that you have now, or the dog that, maybe is senior and you're preparing for end of life care, and the dog that you are adopting. This was very prevalent for me when Teddy was sort of getting very old and a bit sick. And then we adopted Coors. I could feel that shift of the comparison. And I felt horrible every time I did it. But the truth is, that's just the natural way our brain is wired, to compare things. It doesn't mean that it's bad, and it doesn't mean that we're bad in making those connections. It's just simply a neural connection that's happening. In that comparison, you're going to find that you'll miss things in this new dog that aren't there, that were there in your other dog. That's natural, because all dogs are going to be different. You'll never be able to replicate the exact same personality and spirit of the dog that passed away. That's unfortunately not possible. However, you can take the love that you had with that dog, and from that love, build a stronger relationship with this new dog, because the truth is, we only learn to love greater from having loved before. And so loss is one of those things that it can actually make us more capable of loving than we ever could imagine, which I think is actually one of the cool things that can happen after loss, if we're ready, when we're ready. But when we have that new dog in our lives, we may find that we're doing a little bit of that comparison. Just know that's normal. The other thing to be aware of is you might find that you're missing your dog that passed away more because you have another dog now that's drawing out those comparisons, or maybe similarities. So, one of the things that Coors never used to do, but he started doing after Teddy passed away, was when we opened the cheese drawer in our refrigerator, he'd go running into the kitchen. This is something that Teddy Bear did. And in the beginning, it broke my heart because I just wanted to see Teddy and Coors together. But just know that that is all going to be a natural process. It's going to work itself out. The more that your brain becomes accustomed to seeing this new dog in your current environment, the more accustomed you're going to become. And it's not that you're going to miss your other dog less, but you're going to become more at peace with that loss. The other thing that might be a pain point for you is you may feel afraid of really opening yourself up and being vulnerable to this new dog because you're afraid of losing them. This is also a very normal process, and one that you just need to take time with. There's no quick solution here, and there's no way to kind of combat the feelings that might come up. If anything, welcome those feelings and embrace those feelings, acknowledge them, even do some journaling, and then you'll find that they just subside on their own. You'll move through them, and they'll be a lot easier to manage. Just know that your heart is capable of loving again and again and again. You are capable of opening up your heart over and over, an unlimited amount of times. Yes, there is risk in loss every time we love. It's just the way it is. But our lives are so much richer when we open up our hearts to people and animals, especially animals, because animals have a way of loving us like people just don't know how. So if you're thinking about bringing another dog into your life and you're wondering whether it's time, just remember, go with your gut. If it feels like now is the right time, but there's just a little bit of fear about whether or not you're ready or whether or not you're going to be replacing or missing your other dog, that's okay. Those things will subside for you. Lean into love. It's always the best feeling.